The scandal behind the reason why Kenya's President Daniel Moi left his wife Lena is one of the most interesting secrets in the history of the country. Are the claims true that President Moi's messy divorce came after his wife Lena discovered that Moi had another woman with whom they had a child who would be Nakuru's Kenyanjui?
Moi liked women, secondary school head teachers.
How about the long-running rumors of Rigathi Gachagua also having been an illegitimate son of Daniel Moi?
Wewe Kenyanjui, babako mzazi aliyokuzaa alikuwa commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
People, I've seen videos and pictures, people saying you are his son. You've seen those pictures?
People say many things.
Yeah.
Lena Moi, the second first lady that never was, died in the year 2004 in what seemed like poverty, in spite of the father of all her children being the longest-serving president of Kenya and her son Gideon inheriting millions from the vast Moi estate. There are those who say that Daniel Moi divorced his wife Lena a few months after she publicly embarrassed President Jomo Kenyatta by refusing his invitation to dance.
So this day is when Moi parted company with his wife for refusing in public to dance with him.
But the mystery of why the files of the Moi divorce proceedings were kept away from the public would remain unknown for many years until the moment this film is being made.
Under President Moi's leadership, Kenya has enjoyed economic development and political stability.
This is the story of a divorce that came out of accusations of cheating in a marriage between two very conservative Christians. The relationship between Daniel Moi and his wife Lena Bomet had started much earlier in the 1930s when the two first met as teenagers. Young Daniel Moi, an orphan who had lost his parents early, would be admitted to the Africa Inland Mission School in Kabartonjo, a school established by white European missionaries to spread Western literacy and Christianity among the pastoral communities of the Great Rift Valley.
Daniel Torre Tirop Moi was born on the 2nd of September 1924 in a small village of Kriengwo in Sacho location of Baringo district. He was named after his father Kimoy Arap Chebi. Moi was the fifth child of Kabon, Chebi's senior wife. At the age of 4, Moi's father died and his elder brother Tuitoek played a guardian role.
Due to the fact that Moi's home village of Sacho was very far away from the mission school, he had been given somewhere to stay in the home of one of the missionary men in charge of the mission, an American man known as Albert Barney, who had come to East Africa from Australia. Other times, the young orphan from Tugen tribe would be hosted in the house of a local Kalenjin man known as Paul Bomet, who was another important player in the early years of European Christian missionary work in the region. Paul Bomet was the father to Lena, Moi's future wife, and he had been among the very first Kalenjin men to accept conversion into Christianity in that region. Lena's parents were fond of young Daniel Moi for his hard-working spirit and his dedication to Christian teachings and practices.
I am a member of human race, and therefore I support all members of human race, those who believe in peace.
Once Moi had completed education at the Kabartonjo Mission School, he would get baptized into his new name, Daniel. At the same time, Lena, who had also been equally educated in two different schools in Eldamaravine and in Tenwek Girls in Kericho, had matured into a young, attractive woman, and Moi had a crush on her.
It's a long way to the sweetest God.
After she had been educated at the Tenwek Girls Boarding School in Kericho, Lena would travel to live in America for a short period, living with Christian families there, all while being taught ways of modern Western housekeeping and more Christian education by her American hosts.
In Africa, people don't take education to be anything. They must take it seriously. When I was a young boy, I went to school and we were learning a song which was saying at that time, and I suppose the teacher was coming from Northern Ireland, and it was saying there is a sweet girl in Tipperary. So at that time, I thought the best girl is found in Tipperary.
Similar to Daniel Moi, Lena and her two siblings, known as William and Dinah, were among the very first teenagers to be raised and educated in the Christian way in the entire region, and it came as no surprise when in their early 20s, they would become the pioneer group of African Christian evangelicals who would traverse the many villages in the ravine preaching the good news of Jesus Christ. And therefore, when Lena, known then as Helena Bomet, returned to Kenya from her short stay in the United States, she would start teaching in a local primary school, or while accompanying her boyfriend Moi when he went to the local villages preaching the gospel and winning souls. Daniel Moi himself went to Tambach Teachers Training College after Kabartonjo, where he would study for 2 years between 1945 and 1947. When he graduated Tambach, Moi would go straight to Kagumo Teachers Training College for even higher education. All this while, he was quietly building his courtship with his fiancée Lena Bomet.
There can never be understanding without love for humanity.
By the time he was getting admitted to Kagumo Teachers College, Moi had already gotten his first employment as a school teacher. He had been recalled to Tambach Teachers Training College as one of the teachers who were giving back to the school by passing on what he had learnt to other African boys who had come to the school. His work as an untrained teacher at Tambach was impressive, and it would soon get noticed by some people within the district administration. After graduating from Kagumo Teachers Training College, Daniel Moi was lucky to be recommended to be appointed school principal by the man who was then district education officer, a Luhya man known as Moses Mudamba Mudavadi, the father to later-day politician Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, who later became one of Daniel Moi's cabinet ministers. And therefore, by the recommendation of Mudavadi, Daniel Moi was made principal of the Tambach Teachers Training College, his alma mater, a position that would start building his profile in his local community as a respected teacher and as a pioneer Christian evangelist of the Rift Valley province. Much of what happened in this period of Moi's life has been recorded in the book of his autobiography written by British author Andrew Morton, which was published in 1998 under the headline of Daniel Moi, The Making of an African Statesman. Moi got married to Lena in the year 1950, just 1 year after Moi had left Kagumo Teachers Training College to become the new principal in Tambach.
Once a teacher, always a teacher.
The wedding vows between the two were conducted and witnessed by the Reverend Albert Barnett. According to the testimony of Lily Setim, one among the women who had attended the wedding all those years back as Lena's bridesmaids, it was the Reverend Barnett who had provided the white wedding gown which was worn by Lena on that day, and she remembers how many women in the village were shocked by the whiteness of that special wedding gown. Unfortunately, there was not a single person with a camera that day, and therefore no pictures of the colorful day were recorded for later memories. And therefore, after the 1950 wedding, Moi and Lena would settle into the Christian marriage life and soon got their first 2 children, Jonathan and Jennifer, in the years 1952 and 1953 respectively. After the kids, Lena was forced to abandon her teaching career and become a stay-at-home mom, taking care of her husband and ever-growing children. Later on, when the Moi family came into great success, Kenyan journalist Faraj Dumila would ask Lena Moi in an interview about the sacrifice she had made, leaving her teaching career to become a stay-at-home mother, and she would gracefully respond that she did it for her children, adding that kids need to be raised by their own biological mother. The quiet home life of Lena Moi would encounter a sudden disruption in the year 1955. Reason being that Daniel Moi was nominated to represent Africans from his Rift Valley region at the National Colonial Parliament in Nairobi, then known as the Legislative Council LegCo, after the man who had previously been nominated to the LegCo lost the job due to excessive drinking. After his appointment to become a member of the LegCo Parliament in 1955, Daniel Moi gained a new status in the society, and life became more promising for his wife Lena and their children. Moi's nomination also meant that the quiet rural life they had built in their rural home was permanently disrupted. In the months that followed, they would move their home from Tambach to Nairobi, where Lena would continue with her normal housewife routine as Daniel Moi settled into national politics.
That the constitution has not yet been implemented, and they are discussing independence constitution. How on earth that an internal self-government constitution is being which is being agreed, is set aside and wanting to implement another constitution, a different constitution altogether.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Moy.
Thank you.
Under his new assignment, Moy found himself traveling to a lot of remote areas and villages throughout the Rift Valley, this time not spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, but as the senior-most African political representative representing his Kalenjin people in Nairobi.
But I'm going to follow the policies laid down by our late father of the nation, His Excellency Mzee Jomo Kenyatta.
He would buy a Land Rover to get him into the remote villages, then introduced a posho mill to make maize flour for the local people of Baringo South where he came from at a small fee. And even his mode of dressing changed from the shorts and socks he had been known to wear in his school teacher days, now rocking a full three-piece suit like a proper politician. Therefore, as fate would have it, Lena Bomet would end up as the wife of a prominent politician, far from the quiet private life she had envisioned as the wife of the school principal Daniel Arap Moi. In the year 1961, Daniel Moi was among the top leaders of the Kenya African Democratic Union Party KADU, which was competing against KANU in the historic 1961 general elections.
The Congo situation is becoming more and more serious. And therefore, I would like to make the following statement. I, the Prime Minister, Mr. Jomo Kenyatta, assisted by Mr. Diallo Telly, Secretary General.
During those elections, Moi's brother-in-law Eric Bomet, who was a brother to Lena, decided he would run against Moi for the parliamentary seat in Baringo. The move by Eric was said to bring conflict between Daniel Moi and his in-laws, and their relationship would continue to get worse as Moi became more and more prominent in the national political scene. Eric Bomet, who lost the election, would eventually go to parliament as a special nominated MP for KANU, but it would be Moi's KADU which carried the day in the Rift Valley in that 1961 election.
Even Jomo Kenyatta would help Moi with money for campaigns. Yes, although he was not giving him more than 10,000 shillings.
By 1967, the same political betrayal by Jomo Kenyatta and Tom Mboya against Oginga Odinga that would help Moi become vice president under Majimbo federal system of government also made sure after the Majimbo system and the bicameral parliament were done away with, Daniel Moi would remain in place as the second in command to President Jomo Kenyatta. Once Jomo Kenyatta's health started to show signs of failing him in 1969 and tribal tensions started to rise after the July assassination of Economic Planning Minister Thomas Joseph Mboya, Daniel Moi started getting more challenging roles and assignments in his capacity as the Vice President of Kenya.
This is no ordinary phone call. You are watching a rare 1974 moment when Kenya's Vice President Daniel Arap Moi, alongside the influential Charles Njonjo, called Mzee Jomo Kenyatta to share epic news.
Vice President, please inform His Excellency the President that he has been nominated as the only candidate for the presidency.
As foreign trips, late-night meetings and commitments kept Vice President Moi tied to his desk, this would slowly start to negatively affect his marriage to Lena. Lena was particularly uncomfortable about the constant parties and social events she was expected to attend as the wife of the Vice President of Kenya, many of which forced her to interact with people who did not live according to the Christian values she and her family were committed to.
Mimi Daniel Dorotich Arap Moi.
At this point, Moi and Lena had built an impressive family of 7 children whose names were Jonathan, Jennifer, Raymond, Philip, Doris, John Mark, Gideon, and June the last born. It would later be said that Daniel Moi's enemies inside the Jomo Kenyatta administration had hatched a deliberate plan to bury the vice president under the mundane duties of the day-to-day administration as a way of making him invisible to the public eye and therefore dimming his political star so he does not become a future president after Kenyatta.
I find painful to speak about Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who has been my father, my teacher, and my leader.
At At the same time, Moi's political career would also steal all the time he had previously dedicated to being a Christian evangelist, which would further alienate him from his deeply dedicated Christian wife. Despite the growing tension, Lena Moi continued to be seen with her high-profile husband in public whenever necessary, even though her distaste for the rooms where secular men drank liquor and smoked cigarettes would only grow the higher Moi rose in the Kenyatta political hierarchy. Eventually, the scene that many believe brought about the Moi divorce would happen one night in the year 1974.
He's coming for Kenyatta, but his wife refused. So blessed day is when Moi parted company with his wife for refusing in public to dance with him. He told him, I'm safe. And we in the revival fellowship, we do the dancing and singing. And Moi was also a member of the revival. I don't know why he wanted to dance at that time. To liberalize the revival, but he was not liberal. So they parted.
Vice President Daniel Moi would throw an evening party attended by President Jomo Kenyatta himself. Moi was in a good mood that evening, even dancing with First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta in full view of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and other senior government officials. Second Lady Lena Moi was reported to also have danced with President Jomo Kenyatta on the same dance floor as Moi and the other aristocrats cheered on. Photos provided to the public by the National Presidential Library show Lena Moi locked in an embrace with President Jomo Kenyatta as they were dancing in that 1974 evening, although Lena's face has an expression that many have interpreted as discomfort or even disgust with what she was doing. The photographic evidence partly refutes the claims that Lena embarrassed Moi by turning down an offer to dance with President Kenyatta that night under the excuse of her Christian faith. This has, however, not stopped rumors from spreading, saying that on that night, Jomo Kenyatta had offered unsolicited advice to Daniel Moi, telling him that if indeed he wanted to go far in his political career, meaning if he wanted to take the next step and become the final boss of the Kenyan Republic after Kenyatta left, then he should make his wife Lena more socially flexible both in public and in private.
President Daniel Arap Moi of Kenya.
If indeed Mzee Jomo Kenyatta said that to his vice president, not much interpretation had been offered as to why he said it.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we shall witness the official opening of this magnificent building whose foundation stone I had the pleasure of laying.
Not much time would pass after the evening party of 1974. Lena Moi would move from their family home in Kabarnet Gardens in Nairobi, where the vice president's family lived, and she went back to Kabarak to live by herself in the big family estate known as Kabimoi Estate. Vice President Moi stayed in Nairobi with 7 of their children, and only the firstborn son, Jonathan, followed his mother to live with her in the Kabimoi Estate. Even though Vice President Daniel Moi would try very hard to conceal the separation, claims and rumors would begin to leak out saying that Lena Moi had been cheating on Moi with another man. These claims that were not very well explained in the Moi autobiography written by Andrew Morton would say that the second lady had a secret romantic affair with another Kalenjin man known as Kibowen Arap Kirui. Therefore, Moi would hire lawyers from the Kaplan and Stratton law firm to process the divorce case between him and his wife, while his wife Lena and her alleged lover Mzee Kibowen got the representation of the late prominent lawyer Chesaine. The divorce case was litigated in great secrecy and away from the eyes of the public and the media inside the private chambers of the Chief Justice of Kenya back then. Even though they had been separated since 1974, the divorce between Moi and Lena would not be legally finalized until 1979, the year after Jomo Kenyatta died and Moi became president of Kenya.
Realize the man who has devoted his entire life in the pursuit of normal ideals which are shared by people like us the world over. His unwavering devotion to peace, unity and dignity of mankind has been an example to us all.
The ceremony where Daniel Moi was sworn in as the second president of Kenya would happen without any first lady present, making it the only time when a president of Kenya ascended to power without an active spouse by his side.
1978 marked a milestone in independent Kenya's history. It was the year the country's founding president, Jomo Kenyatta, died, and his vice president, Daniel Arap Moi, succeeded him.
From the secrecy of the Moi divorce, many of the claims from the period would stay unknown for a long time even after Moi left office for retirement in late 2002. On top of it all, there are these others who say that the divorce was not brought about by Lena's infidelity, but rather it was Vice President Daniel Moi himself who actually cheated on his wife. These stories claim that as a rising vice president, Moi had acquired a certain taste for women from the Mount Kenya region, especially younger women who worked with him around President Kenyatta inside the Nairobi State House.
Moi liked women, secondary school head teachers.
Oh, that's why he had all these high schools under his name, with his name.
Yeah, and that is after he became the president. But when he was the vice president, alikuwa anapigwa kofi hata na inspector wa police kwa road block. So he was very humble when he was the vice president. Aliponyang'anywa mwanamke akanyamaza tu. Even this humanizing ilitokea tu when he became the president. Maybe as a vice president, women used to visit him at night and
These claims too we discuss up ahead. After the 1974 divorce, Moi's biographer Andrew Moulton writes in his book about how Lena would make a special room for Daniel Moi in the house where she went to live in the Kabimoi estate in Kabarak, where she would believe Moi would one day come to stay after he was done with his political career in Nairobi.
How much?
20,000.
20,000. Well done. I would get in that.
On his part, Daniel Moi was fully dedicated to politics and leadership, and Lena's dream of his retirement would sadly never come true in her lifetime, even after Moi retired in 2002. After her dramatic departure from Nairobi in 1974, Lena's public appearances with Daniel Moi stopped.
In our meeting, I explained to the President Reagan that Kenya has invested in its future in freedom.
And even her public meetings where she would be seen preaching the gospel in villages as the second lady would stop altogether. According to a renowned Kenyan writer, the late Wainaina Bivanyanga, even the Lena Moi Primary School in Nakuru would have its name changed briefly, and the word Lena was allegedly removed after the divorce. Vice President Moi would go on to raise his children alone in Nairobi, in spite of the very busy schedule he was keeping at the time as a top-ranking government official.
Whatever happens in Europe will affect Africa. Nobody controls the movement of air. We discuss, some of us when we were at school, we used to discuss movement of wind, monsoon, dry air, and what have you. But it should be noted that during those old days, these winds never carried anything except freshness of the universe. But today it carries all chemicals and everything, dirty business, because of the progress made by man.
Biographer Andrew Moulton says Moi's parenting was affected by his work, and sometimes his boys were punished by members of his bodyguard whenever they made mistakes, since many of these times Moi himself had no time to discipline them. Daniel Moi would raise his kids under the strict Christian code of conduct he had been raised on, drawing from his experience as a school teacher and a Christian disciplinarian.
Kenyans always tend to be careless, carefree. They should never be. They should be careful, vigilant all the time. The world is becoming too small for all of us. And that's why you hear me talking about unity.
Even though they had not been born into the same poverty he was born into, Moi insisted on his children following the Christian way of life in whatever they did inside and outside his house.
So my task here today is to say thank you to each one of you who has journeyed with us to here.
In his years as a single father, Daniel Moi was also said to be involved with multiple women he had been working with, especially those in his old teaching profession. There is an intriguing story about how Vice President Daniel Moi once fell in love with a Kikuyu woman who was a military officer working in President Jomo Kenyatta's office at the Nairobi State House. The name of this woman was Elizabeth Karungari. This would be the second woman Moi wanted to marry, but she ended up getting married to another man before VP Moi could make his proposal. In that same period, VP Moi was said to be involved with one or two women who were school principals, although he did not have much success on the romantic front as he did in his political endeavors, since many of his alleged lovers would end up getting married to other men.
Daniel Arap Moi told me he will go when he's ready, but after 14 years of absolute power, he has no intention of being pushed.
It is said that at one point in his days as a divorcee vice president in the 1970s, Daniel Moi had been attracted to the same woman as SK Macharia, the man who would later become a media magnate and the biggest media owner in Kenya, the founder of Citizen TV. SK Macharia would win over the woman and marry her after taking her on an overseas trip to the United States, something that Daniel Moi had not been willing to do for the young woman. The truth of this story has, however, not been confirmed by either man. Many believe that Daniel Moi is the biological father of Lee Mayani Kinyanjui, the former governor of Nakuru County, especially because Lee, a government minister in later governments, was born in the year 1976, 2 years after Moi's divorce from Lena Bomet. These claims have been raised by many of Kinyanjui's political opponents, and ironically, the most prominent claims of the connection would come from former Deputy President of Kenya Rigathi Gachagua, who made his claims in 2022.
Wewe Lee Kinyanjui ndio unatakiwa kuja Moro uombe msamaha kwa sababu babako mzazi aliyokuzaa alikuwa Commander in Chief of the Armed Forces and the President of Kenya, watu ya Moro wakiumia.
The irony exists because that same Rigathi Gachagua has also been widely accused by his own political competition of being President Daniel Moi's biological son. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has had his face likened to that of Daniel Moi, with some even claiming that Rigathi's early career progress while he was a student at the University of Nairobi would happen due to him having been a secret son of the former president.
Though loyal KANU supporters still sing to Papa Moi, his status as father of the nation is now in question. The man who believes his power derives from God shows no sign of stepping aside without a fight.
On an interview with a popular Kenyan YouTuber Obina TV, Rigathi Gachagua would be openly confronted with a question about his relationship with Daniel Moi and why some say he had a father-son relationship with the president. In his response, Rigathi said Moi had been his mentor when he was a student of literature and political science at the University of Nairobi in the late 1980s, saying that he had the privilege to see and speak to the president whenever he wanted, a rare opportunity for boys of his background back in the day. Unlike Lee Kinyanjui, Rigathi Gachagua had been born in 1965, the year when Daniel Moi was Jomo Kenyatta's Minister for Home Affairs and Internal Security, and Rigathi says he did not meet Moi until later in 1985 when his university professor took him to meet the president.
How was your relationship with the President Moi?
Good.
You were buddy-buddy?
Oh yeah. He was a good old man. Very fatherly. And I used to go and visit him as a student leader, as a district officer.
Okay.
He had time for me, and he would listen to me, and he would also guide me, and to a great extent, he mentored me into leadership.
Okay.
And may God rest his soul in eternal peace. He was a great man, and he had a good ear to listen, and he loved young people. He believed in young people. So he gave me his ear and his advice and allowed me to serve in his government.
Okay.
Yeah.
People, I've seen videos and pictures, people saying you are his son. You've seen those pictures?
People say many things.
Yeah.
And,
similarity,
and you cannot stop people
from
saying anything. Yeah, this is my father here. And people can say whatever they want to say.
Okay.
You know, when you are in politics, people try to demean you, to try to bring you down.
Yeah.
But not me. I'm never bothered with those things. I don't answer back. They don't bother me. I am not interested. I am focused. I told you.
In a complimentary story told by Rigathi's wife, a young Rigathi Gachagua had been in charge of selecting university students from his Nyeri districts who would go to visit President Moi at his home, and his wife Dorcas would later narrate how Rigathi would even take his own mother to go visit Daniel Moi at the Kabarnet Gardens in the 1980s. Rigathi Gachagua's private relationship with President Daniel Moi went on throughout Moi's life, with Rigathi saying it was President Moi who recalled him from his private life to come and help Uhuru Kenyatta get into politics as his personal assistant in the year 2001. In the Kabimoi estate home, Lena Moi would settle into a more ordinary life with her son Jonathan, who had a difficult relationship with his father President Moi even after the divorce had been finalized in 1979. Jonathan, the firstborn, always felt that their father Daniel had always favored Gideon, the last-born son, above all the other siblings in the family.
He respected me and he gave me his friendship. And I remember the last conversation that we had together was a conversation of humor, laughter.
Although she was still a well-respected member of her immediate community, Lena's life in the village in Kabimoi would become a little too ordinary for someone of her social class, especially when she was reported to even use public transport whenever moving about her daily life in Kabimoi, happening at a time when the whole country expected her to be in Nairobi with Moi playing the role of the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya.
Where the whole nation has elected His Excellency Daniel Arap Moi to be the President of this nation.
It wasn't very clear whether her use of public transport was out of lack of money or just modesty and preference. What's even more astonishing is when Lena's father Mzee Paul Bomet passed away in the year 1997 and First Lady Lena Moi was reported to use a matatu, public transport, from Kabimoi to her parents' house in Kabarnet for the burial ceremony. President Daniel Arap Moi himself had been present at Paul Bomet's funeral that day, but many Kenyans would be shocked to see Lena standing among ordinary people in the crowd as if she was neither a daughter of the deceased preacher nor the supposed wife of the President of Kenya. Many who would testify to seeing Lena Moi at her father's 1997 funeral say they did not know who she was until later, long after the funeral had ended and Lena went back to Kabimoi. The journalist who took her picture standing among mourning villagers was likely one of those who had not recognized who the woman was to the family and to Daniel Moi. Out of the events of that day, it would appear as if Lena had been excommunicated from both her families when the divorce happened.
Waziri Nyachae 50,000, Kalonzo 30,000.
In a different example, Lena was also said to attend the wedding of one of her children without a formal invitation from her ex-husband's people. This is, however, not to say that Lena Moi went through her life without seeing her children and grandchildren after the 1974 separation. Jonathan Moi, the firstborn son who stuck with his mother, ended up as a famous driver in the Safari Rally, but he was said to live a less luxurious life than his younger brothers such as Gideon, who was born in 1963. In the early 2000s, Jonathan ran for a parliamentary seat in Eldama Ravine, and the message of his campaign in that year appeared to condemn his father's decision to divorce Mama Lena. He told the voters that he wanted to make sure that there was socio-economic protection for women and children rendered destitute by divorce, saying family values were his manifesto priority. The election when Jonathan was contesting happened in 2002, the same year when his father Daniel was leaving office for retirement and his KANU party candidate Uhuru Kenyatta would end up losing to Mwai Kibaki in the late December presidential contest. Jonathan Moi lost his bid at the KANU party primaries level, where he was beaten for the party nomination by Musa Sirma, a close friend of Jonathan's father, the president. The local KANU leaders in Eldama Ravine seemed to have instructions from above that Jonathan Moi was not to get preferential treatment in the nominations, especially since all the KANU leaders knew he had used his campaign to attack President Moi about the Lena divorce. On the flip side, his younger brother Gideon would get a direct endorsement from President Moi when he ran for office in Baringo some years later. Jonathan Moi's second attempt for the Eldama Ravine parliamentary seat in 2007 also ended in a loss. Lena Moi started ailing and would pass on in July of 2004. After his retirement, President Daniel Moi would go to visit Lena at the Kabimoi estate farm, and the last time he went there, they both said a prayer together like the good old days. After death occurred, a conflict would arise between Daniel Moi's family and the Bomet family where Lena had been born, because the president wanted Lena to be laid to rest at his home village of Sacho, Baringo. On the contrary, Lena's brothers insisted that their sister would not be rested in the bush, and she ended up buried in Moi's Kabarak home in the Kabimoi estate.
We carried out Kabarak, funeral and everything, Kabarak, not Sacho. Kabarak, and she will be buried in Kabarak, where I will also be buried.
And you said to the fact that that's where you also decided you will be laid to rest?
Myself, when time comes, yes, there, beside her.
Later on, when the President Daniel Moi died in the year 2020,
former President Daniel Arap Moi was today given full military honors as the body was taken to the Nyayo Stadium for the state funeral.
His final wishes were to be rested next to his wife Lena, the one and only woman he was ever married to in his 95 years on earth.